water due to leak. Initially, the tank is full and contains 1,500 gallons. So how can we set this up? How many gallons are in the tank 20 weeks later? Doesn't even need a sequence equation, but you could think about how to solve it. What's happening? It's losing 5 gallons every week for how many weeks? For 20 weeks, right? What is 5 times 20? So it loses 100 gallons, right? So what would be my final amount? I would just take 1,500, my starting amount, and subtract off 100. And that's 1,400 gallons. Now, I could come up with a formula if I wanted to, right? Because this is an arithmetic sequence. It's going down by the same amount. If I wanted to, I could write this as I'm starting with 1,500 in the tank and I'm losing 5. Actually, I'm just going to write 5 times W. So I'm losing 5 gallons every week. So I could think of it as n minus 1. I guess that would be. But see, then when I plug in 2, I have to plug in 2 to lose 5 gallons. Applications are tricky because when you have n minus 1, it's really counting the first term as week 0. So I like to think of it as in the application problem, I'm losing 5 gallons every week, rather than writing it as parenthesis n minus 1. Because if you plug in 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. And after 1 week, you should actually lose 5 gallons. So I would use that formula. So it wants you to know how many weeks until the tank is half full and how many weeks until the tank is empty. So I'm going to let you try it for a couple minutes. You can either use the equation to solve or you could guess and check. So see if you can come up with those 2 answers. A little bit of problem solving, not too bad, but if you're going to use the formula for the tank to be half full, right, you would need 750 as your answer. So if you actually wanted to solve it, you would say, when will the tank have 750? Set it equal to your equation, right? You're basically going to subtract the 1,500 to the other side and divide by the -5, and that should tell you the number of weeks. Or maybe you just knew half empty, you would have to lose 750 at 5 gallons per week. How many weeks would that take? Right, -750 equals -5 weeks. So divide by -5. Is that what you did? You took 750 and divided by 5? You guessed and checked? So it should be 150, right? 150 weeks. That was 750 divided by 5. And then how many weeks until the tank is empty? Well, we've got to get rid of 1,500 gallons. We're losing 5 every week. So if we take 1,500 and divide by 5, it's going to take me, well, it makes sense, 300 weeks, right? It's 150 to half empty the tank. It would be 300 weeks to fully empty the tank. All right, I'm going to skip number 2 for now. I want to go over to number 3 and then have you try 2 and 4 on your own. Okay, so number 3, the feeder. So here's my feeder. It has 22 seats in the first row of A. It's copied a little bit dark. This is called A, and it's the center section. We kind of have this in our auditorium, right? We've got a center and then the 2 sides. So in this auditorium, as you go further back, there's more seats in each row. So this says there are 22 seats in the first row, and each row behind that has 2 additional seats, right? Because it's kind of like an arc. So if there's 22 in this row, then there's 24 in the next row, and then there's 26 in the next row. You keep getting a couple more in each row. So, and then let A sub n equal 22 plus 2n, starting with n equals 0. You don't really need the formula, but you can use the formula. Give the first 10 values of the sequence. I've already given you the first 3 values, right? Because term 1 is 22, then 24, then 26. Find the value of a sub 10 and interpret its meaning. And how many seats total are in the section if there are 12 rows? Try that one for a minute. See if you can come up with the first 10 values. And I don't know, I'm going to kind of change this because I think let n equal 1, and we should really be using the sequence 2 times n minus 1. Right, so then n is the first row. That way, when you interpret a sub 10, you're really interpreting the 10th row. It's too confusing if you start at term 0 and stuff. So we'll keep the formula the same way that we've been doing it yesterday. 22 plus 2 n minus 1, where n equals 1 is the first row now. Don't do a sub 0. That's kind of a trick. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to list my first 10 values. 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Find the value of a sub 10. So you should have figured that out, right? 40. There are 40 seats in. I'm going to still call this row 10. I'm just going to ignore their problem with n equals 0, because then it would represent really the 9th row. I think it makes more sense that we just let 10 represent the 10th row, and we set up our equation like we did yesterday. All right, so how many seats total? I'll add them up. And then I want to show you a quick preview of a pre-calculus shortcut. Not you care right now, but go ahead, add up all these numbers on your calculator. 22 plus 24 plus 26 plus 28 plus 30 plus 32 plus 34 plus 36 plus 38 plus 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know, is that someone else got? Yeah, 310, who got that? Who actually added it up and got it? No, okay. I'm going to show you a shortcut. When you added these all up, you got 310. So I want you to notice a pattern. What is 22 plus 40? What's 32? Okay. What is 24 plus 38? What's 26 plus 36? Notice how all the pairs add up to 62? How many pairs would there be? 5 pairs, because I had 10 rows, right? So what is 5 times 62? 3 times. It is 3 times. So with arithmetic, as long as it's going up by the same amount, if you take the first and the last term and you make it a pair, all you need is the number of pairs. So a famous mathematician, you'll hear the story in pre-calculus, Gauss, Frederick Gauss. He was an elementary school student, and his substitute teacher that day, or maybe a mean teacher that day, I don't know the full story, wanted to keep the class busy, and they didn't have calculators back. I don't know when he lived, in the 1700s, I think. And he wanted the class to add up all the numbers from 1 to 100. So he listed them, add up all the integers from 1 to 100. And Frederick Gauss, famous mathematician, came up and told him the answer in less than 2 minutes. And he was like astounded. How could he add up all the numbers from 1 to 100? So what would the answer have been? How could he add up all the numbers from 1 to 100 that quickly? Think about what I just told you for the pairs. right? Because 1 to 100, there'd be 50 pairs. And then where's the number 101 coming from? Well, that adds up to 101. What's 2 plus 99? That adds up to 101. What's 3 plus 98? That adds up to 101. So 50 times 101 is how much? 5,050. So he was able to just multiply that and get the answer. So arithmetic sequences, when you start into pre-calculus, you learn about series. A series is just adding up the terms in a sequence. We're just doing sequences, so all you have to be able to do is add them up on your calculator. But some of you might thought that shortcut was kind of cool. And it says, how many total seats are in the A center section if there's 12 rows? Oh, why did I have you add them all up? I didn't have you add up enough, did I? Because you have to put 12 rows. You only got 10 rows, didn't we? So we were at 310, plus we have to add row 11, plus we have to add row 12, don't we? So I gave the first 10 values, but how many seats if there's 12 rows? I'd have to go 2 rows further. So what should that be? 310 plus 42 plus 44 is 396. If I had wanted to do the shortcut, this would have been, what, 42, 44. Now my new sum was 22 plus 44, 66. I could do 66 times, I would have 6 pairs now, right? Is 66 times 6, 396? Yes, it is. So it worked. When I added a couple extra terms, I could still use the shortcut. All right, I would like you to try with a partner for a few minutes. Question number 2 and question number 4, and they're all about arithmetic sequences. Right on the back now. Try number 4 on the back. I didn't unpause my video. Here were the answers to number 4, and now we are setting up an expression for the challenge, and you're going to try to add it up and find what D is and solve for the price. Our final answer is, what is the cost of each item? So I'm going to rewrite the prices down below when I know what D is. Make sure I have the right answer at the end. This has to add up to how much? Right, so I could check if I have the right answer. You would never get this one right by guessing and checking. You guessed and checked what the difference was? And you guessed 35 cents? Really? Random numbers and you got it? I feel like it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but did you set up a formula for yourself? Really? I don't know how you got that, but that's great. You got lucky, I think. All right, so in our time remaining, kind of together in your groups, I made a sequence practice part 1 for today, and I made a sequence practice part 2 for tomorrow because I want you to get really good at sequences before your quiz on Friday. Friday is just a quick check-in on sequences. I want to show you this format to make sure you understand. Do you see how I set them up a little bit differently each time? So let's look at the odds together so that you can do the evens in a minute. So on number 1, I gave you the sequence. You have to figure out what the common difference is, what the first term is. Obviously, it's 5 for this one. And you're writing your own closed formula. So then on each of these, they're asking you to use your formula to find a term. But I give you different information on number 3. So on number 3, you're going to say, okay, my first term is 8, and I'm going up by 3 every time. So you can list the first few terms, write your own formula. But then on number 5 and 6, I give you the formula, and you have to fill in, all right, what's term 1? What's term 2? So you're filling in different parts of the table to make sure no matter how I give you the information on Friday, whether I give you the sequence, this information, or the formula, you could do it the other parts. Does that make sense? So start with the table And have me check 1 through 6 before you move on to make sure you've got the correct idea.